Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor, and for today's video I'm going over all the books that I purchased in March. I've got quite the haul. Not really sure how they accumulated to this much because I was really trying to keep my spending in check last month, but apparently that didn't apply to books whatsoever. So yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books for you guys, which is a lot. As you can see, my shelves are a little bit sparse up here because I had already had them in my shelf, and I had to go through and pull all of them out. So my shelves are a mess now. I've got this hefty stack of books to share with you guys. A lot of books to go over, so I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. And the first couple of books that I got this month was the books from my book of the month order, and I did get 2 books this month, or in the month of March because it's April now. But the book that I got that was one of the March books was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This, I don't feel like it needs much of an introduction because it's been everywhere, but this is essentially a book about a kind of Fleetwood Mac style of band and their rise to fame and kind of like their fall as well. I have already read this. I do believe I gave it a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5 stars. But yeah, it was very solid. I really enjoyed reading this one. Just the cover just really gives off those Fleetwood Mac, you know, vintage, old school, rock and roll sort of vibes. And because I usually have no self-control when it comes to book of the month orders, I went ahead and picked up a backlog book, and that was Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I've talked at length about this one from my vlogs from the past month, so I'm not going to go into detail on this one. I did end up reading this book as well. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, if I'm not mistaken. This is essentially about a girl named Libby who was the survivor of her whole family getting murdered, and she blamed her brother for it at the time, but she's looking back as an adult and thinking that her brother actually didn't do it after all. So yeah, another good read. This was like the only Gillian Flynn book that I hadn't read, and I saw it on Book of the Month and just kind of added it to the cart. And I'm actually okay, I guess, with adding 2 of them because this month in April I didn't really see any of the books that really caught my eye, so I actually skipped for the first time ever. So I guess it's okay that I got 2 books last month, since we'll just count one of them as my April book and it all evens out. Yeah. These next few books I did all get thrifting, and I did kind of go over them in a vlog somewhere. I think it was the first vlog of the Fantasy Adventure-a-thon. So yeah, I actually went to Goodwill for the first time in forever. I don't know, I just don't have experience. I just don't have good experiences at Goodwills ever. So, you know, wasn't really expecting much. I was going to help my brother kind of try and find something that he was looking for, and I ended up just hitting the jackpot when it came to books. The first book that I did pick up from there was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, parts 1 and 2 by J.K. Rowling. I haven't read this yet. I know what happens in it because I feel like if you're a part of the Harry Potter fandom, it's very hard to not get spoiled for new material. I don't really consider this canon whatsoever. I think there's a ton of really excellent fan fiction out there that I just personally prefer to have as canon. I've heard this isn't so great, but this is like $1 and it's in really great condition. It is the only Harry Potter book that I don't own, other than the Fantastic Beasts screenplays. That's another story for a different day. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna try and read it. It's a little unfair of me to judge this one without even reading it. I know what happens in it. We'll see. I know this is not a very popular book, so if you've read it, leave your comments down below. What did you think of it? I actually haven't known anyone that I know personally in real life, I guess, that has enjoyed this and enjoys what happens in here. I'd be curious to know what you guys think about it, but hey, gotta read it at some point, so we'll see. We'll see when I get to this. The next books I got were Dan Brown books, and I did get Angels and Demons and The Lost Symbol. I really enjoy like the Da Vinci Code Robert Langton sort of series. I did previously have both of these books in really bad mass market paperbacks. So when I found these for like $2 a piece, I knew I had to get them. I already have the Da Vinci Code and Inferno, so I just kind of wanted to complete the series. I know there is another one, I believe it's called Origin. I haven't gotten that one yet. Honestly, I've kind of just been ignoring it. Honestly, one of the reasons why I haven't gotten it is like these look so good together. Like they have like the red and the black and the orangey yellow color scheme, and Origin's like this ugly blue. I know what it's supposed to be about. I have seen the cover. It makes sense. I'm just a little bit bummed that it just does not go with the rest of the books whatsoever. But yeah, I have it mostly completed, just with the exception of Origin, whenever I get around to buying that one, just because it's just not a priority for me right now. Hopefully I can find that one secondhand too. And then the last book I found at Goodwill was Berserker by Christopher Paolini. This is the third book in the Inheritance cycle, or the Aragon series of books. I've actually been rereading this series, and I have been looking for the hardback editions of the series. I actually owned Eldest and Aragon because when like they first came out, I really enjoyed them, and I got them as like presents and such. I didn't have this one, and I didn't have Inheritance, and you know, at Barnes & Noble they only sell like the paperbacks, and I've just found it really hard to find a hardcover in great condition that's in my budget, so I found this one at Goodwill for $2, and it is in perfect condition, and it's a hardcover, and yeah, was very stoked about this one. So now I just have Inheritance to go, and then I will be completed with that series. I do really want to finish this series as soon as I can, because the Fork, the Witch, and the Worm came out in December, and I have not bought that yet because I didn't want to buy it without being able to buy it and then read it immediately after. And I do remember what happens in this series. I did really love this series as a child. I just kind of forget like a lot of like the more intimate details that happen in these books because they're very large. I read them when they first came out, so that was a while ago. So I do want to get a little refresher course before I pick up the, I guess, like a sequel. I don't know what we're calling it, like an extended look into the world, I guess. Now, the next book that I picked up was from Half Priced Books. A little surprised about this one, honestly, because my Half Priced Books has kind of been disappointing me lately. It's not very big, and the genres that it kind of caters to is definitely not the type of genres I read. Nothing against those genres at all. They have a lot of kids books, they have a lot of young adult books, which is awesome, and I totally support that. You know, literacy for younger kids is everything. But they do have a lot of that. They do also have like a lot of romance, which I'm not so much into, and I'd say my main genres are horror, thriller, and I guess sci-fi and like high fantasy, and they don't even really have like a section for fantasy. It's sci-fi and fantasy are combined into one shelf. Thrillers are combined into one shelf, and horror has just like one bookshelf that's pretty much all Stephen King, and maybe you can find like a John Lindquist or like, you know, a Barker or, you know, like another well-known name, but you can't really find anything other than Stephen King. So I was surprised to find something that I didn't already have there, and that was actually Lissy's Story by Stephen King. Like I said, can't really find any horror other than King at this location, except for Halloween time. They had a lot more, which is disheartening because I need spooky stuff year-round. I am trying to kind of purchase the King books in publication order, but this one was in perfect condition, and it is so gorgeous. I just had to pick it up. And this was, I think, $6. Now, the cover doesn't really look like too much right here, but then you take off the dust jacket, and you have, I think, one of the most visually stunning covers that I have seen. We'll do a little close-up for you guys. Like, it's stunning. I don't actually know too much about this one. I know this is kind of, I believe, like an ode to King's marriage. I know it's not a horror book, It's definitely more, I would say probably magical realism would be my guess based on the books that I have read of King that aren't exclusively horror. But yeah, I was excited to find this one. Just from the synopsis alone, I wasn't like too excited to pick it up. It wasn't a priority or anything like that, but I don't know. This cover has me like a little bit more stoked because apparently this is apparently like a visual depiction of the fantasy world that the main character goes to. Yeah, so that was that one. Who knows when I will get to reading this one, but it's gorgeous and I'm excited to have it. And then the next couple of books I did actually get from Burton Noble. They were just hitting me with really good sales and really good coupons all month long, so I had to take advantage of that. And I honestly think I did save these books for last because I think they're my favorites out of all the books that I got this month. I mean, I know one is absolutely my favorite. I think the other two are going to be good favorites of mine as well. So I actually ended up getting 2 non-fictions and 1 fiction. So the first book that I got was The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs by Steve Bruchate. This is a nonfiction book about the history of the dinosaurs, as the title suggests. I had no idea this book existed until Allie from Hardback Hoarder did her whole video series on all of the books that won Goodreads awards, and I just got so excited about this. I didn't know this book existed. Like, it has fun pictures, diagrams, all of that. I think like many kids who grew up in the late 90s or 90s at all, I mean, I know this still happens, but I definitely think growing up in the 90s, you know, you had a thing for dinosaurs, I feel like. I know I definitely did. I wanted to be a paleontologist really bad when I grew up. The science, I guess, of dinosaurs just really intrigued me. And honestly, like, I did have a lot of like those eyewitness books and just like books in general, like nonfiction books about dinosaurs when I was a kid. And I was just fascinated, and you know, that's something that's really stuck with me. Jurassic Park is my favorite movie and book probably of all time. I just love that franchise. Land Before Time, I grew up watching that. You know, there's just like so much, like I think there's just like a cultural fascination with dinosaurs during the late 90s. There was like a lot of science that came out regarding dinosaurs and a lot of like exciting new discoveries, that there's just like this phenomenon, I want to say. And obviously, like, I think dinosaurs have such an allure for a lot of kids still today, but I definitely feel like that was just like a big thing in the 90s. Leave a comment down below, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you know, you also kind of get what I'm saying about just dinosaurs just kind of being like the thing. Like, I definitely had a dinosaur phase. A lot of my friends had dinosaur phases. I really enjoy nonfiction. I'm trying to read at least 1 nonfiction book every single month. I am saving this one for June because that is my birthday month, and since I love dinosaurs so much and I've heard nothing but rave reviews about this one, I know I'm probably really gonna love this. So I wanted to crack it open before June, but I just have like this weird thing where like I make like a dream TBR for my birthday month. I don't know, maybe that's weird, but I'm definitely hoarding all of the books that I'm really looking forward to for June. The next book I got from Barnes & Noble is Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagasaki, PhD, and Amelia Nagasaki, DMA. Last year, I actually read Emily Nagasaki's other book, Come As You Are, and that's a book about female sexual health and sexual like experiences. I highly recommend that book to pretty much anyone who is female or identifies as female, because it was just so enlightening about just like, not just sexual health. I don't know what the phrase is, but it's just a wonderful book about understanding your body, understanding, you know, kind of helping you through like certain mental blocks that comes about trying to find your sexuality in a world that is definitely not attuned to having women be open with their sexuality, and that can cause like a lot of hang-ups and, you know, difficulties. And that book was just so great. Highly recommend checking it out. This one, I got really excited when I heard she was coming out with it. So this is talking about burnout and talking about how women in particular experience stress and what that does to you and how you can combat it. So the jacket on this one says, "This groundbreaking book explains why women experience burnout differently than men and provides a simple science-based plan to help women minimize stress, manage emotions, and live a more joyful life. Many women in America have experienced burnout. What's expected of women and what it's really like to be a woman in today's world are two very different things, and women exhaust themselves trying to close the gap between them. How can you love your body when every magazine cover has 10 diet tips for becoming your best self? How do you lean in at work when you're already operating at 110% and you aren't recognized for it? How can you live happily and healthily in a sexist world that is constantly telling you you're too fat, too needy, too noisy, and too selfish?" I am someone who has diagnosed social anxiety and general anxiety disorder, and stress comes a lot with that. And definitely I am looking forward to reading a book about stress. You know, I know for me, my brain comes up with a ton of the stresses that I do experience, but at the same time, society definitely has a large impact with stress, and especially how women experience stress in our society. I do believe this is focused on America. Emily Nagasaki is American, so I believe it is just kind of focused on American society. With that, I will say that her last book was very, very intersectional. It did go through a ton of different couples and relationships and identifiers and stuff like that. I don't know how intersectional this one will be. My guess is because of her last book, this one is also going to be intersectional. I am going to try and read it this month, so I'll let you guys know, but I'm just very excited to read this one. And last but very, very certainly not least, is a book, again, from Barnes & Noble. I have been trying to get this one for a very long time. My store has either been out of it or the copies in store were very battered and not to my level of brand new books that I want to purchase for full price. And finally, I found a book that I have been waiting for such a long time, and that's the bind-up of Jurassic Park and the Lost World by Michael Crichton. This is a absolutely gorgeous bind-up of these two Crichton books. Like I said before in this video, Jurassic Park is my favorite movie. It's my favorite book. I actually wrote a research paper about it for my honors thesis in college. If that doesn't explain to you what kind of a nerd I am, don't know what does, but it's got like silver sprayed edges. It has the fancy bookmark. The cover is just, the cover is just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous aesthetic. It's got maps. It's really just so excited for this one. I have read both of these books. I have really enjoyed them. If you have watched the Jurassic Park movies, and I'm talking about the original three, not the ones with Chris Pratt, but Jurassic Park is such a good adaptation. The changes that they made between the book and the movie, you know, I totally see like why they did and why that would work better in a movie than in a book, so that's fine. The thing that I love about The Lost World is that the movie and the book, there's only one scene that's the same, and then the rest of it is essentially just a completely different thing. Yeah, don't know why they did that at all, but I just think that's a fun little tidbit. Very happy to have this in my collection. And that's the last book. I already did a thumbnail and it was already very hard to do. Because all these books are very heavy. They're all hardbacks, which is unlike me. I feel like I have like a good collection of, I'd say 60% of my collection is hardback, 40% is paperback. It's definitely a lot of books that I have read before, which makes my owned TBR very happy, because I am really trying to read this year all the books that I own every single month. That's becoming harder because I keep buying books. Out of these 8 books, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh no, 10, because I already put 2 up here. Out of these 10 books, I have read 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them. Out of these 10 books, I have read 6 of them already. So I'm pretty pleased with that. That's a good number. Sorry if the jump cuts in this video are crazy, because everyone in my apartment complex and just the city of Indianapolis in general thinks that just because Indy 500 is here means that everyone's a race car. It's the most annoying thing in the world. But yeah, like I was saying, you know, 6 out of 10 books I've already read. It's a pretty good ratio. I'll take it. That's more than half. Yeah. I think this video has gone on for long enough. That was all the books that I did purchase in the month of March. That's all I got for you guys. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!